Hello gainers, I'm Ralphie. Welcome to my channel called Fit to Philosophy. It says so down at the bottom there. And this channel is about an old guy sharing experience, anecdotes and advice and information to help people use Stoic philosophy more effectively in their lives. And today I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to tell you a story. I was about to say I'm going to give you a situation, but no, I'm going to tell you a story, and it's absolutely true. And the person affected, I have no doubt in my mind that they're being honest with everybody they've told. It began a number of years ago when I was still in my 20s. And occasionally I'd head off up into the Scottish hills, in the Trossachs area, in the centres of Highlands, which tends to get overlooked. There's actually, for a small country, there's some really remote areas in Scotland with a phenomenally deep history and ancient rocks. And these are the rocks that goes back to the beginning of the formation of planet Earth. They're called gneiss, right? G-N-E-I-S-S, gneiss. Anyway, I'm not going to digress too much here. My friend and I found this bothy, and it wasn't a registered bothy on the bothy map. It was just an abandoned place but in good nick, so we reckoned it was a grouse beater's, what they call a houff or a shelter, and it hadn't been used for a while, but we really liked the situation because it had a fantastic view over the moors, and it really seemed to catch the light really well. You know, the colours in the undergrowth became vivid as the sun was setting in the west, and we got a good view of that. It wasn't blocked by mountains or hills. And we had a really lovely night there. We put the fire on, we had our pot noodle meals, and we drank whiskey with water from the local stream, which was just clean as a whistle. And we spent a really comfortable, had a good night's sleep. And this is at the end of autumn, just before winter kicks in. So we're enjoying the last of the summer warmth just before it disappears and winter arrives. You know, you get to kind of fine-tune your hill walking activity literally within days of changing of weather patterns. Because this is when you get the best experience, when other people aren't around. The occasional recreational hill walker that doesn't dress properly and tends to sit in bothies just moaning about things. You might have been in that situation. But my pal Robert, he decided he was going to go back again. He enjoyed it so much. He says, you know, I'm going to go back. And the time he was due to go back, it was raining, so he called it off. And then he phoned me and said, do you want to come with me? I'm going to go this week. And I said, hang about, wait a minute, Robert. Winter's coming in now. The temperature's really dropping. And he says, no, the forecast is quite good. And I said, but it can change so quickly. But he was experienced. He was determined to go, so he did. I didn't join him. Possibly I should have, but I didn't. I had another reason, other things doing. When he arrived, it had been a long walk, the rain had come on, he'd got cold, and he really needed to dry out. Temperature, keeping up the body temperature when you're up in the hills of Scotland is very important. This is why you need to be properly equipped, particularly proper footwear and protective wear, and a hat that covers your ears. He had all these things, but he still found himself, as he was heading towards the bothy, there just seemed a whole coldness descended on the moors around him, and He got in, he lit the fire because there was plenty of firewood because we're near a forest area. He got the water from the stream. He didn't need much because he was just himself. He got the fire up, had his meal, and he settled down for the evening under the light of a few candles because the night fell quite early and because of the time of year. And as soon as his head hit the pillow of his sleeping bag, he was out like a light. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning when he woke up, and I mean, according to what he told us, he didn't just wake up feeling a little bit groggy. He woke up suddenly wide awake, and he could tell immediately that everything wasn't as he left it. Something wasn't right, and he couldn't understand what it was. And he noticed how silent the bothy was. There was not a stir of wind outside, nothing like that. And he got up, he saw the fire was virtually out, and he was feeling cold again, really cold, and he couldn't understand that. So he lit the fire up, and he put more wood in the fire, thank goodness he had it, and he basically went to get back into his sleeping bag and then realised, no, something isn't right. And for whatever reason, call it instinct, he was drawn to the window. He looked outside, small bothy window, quite small. You coming up, sweetheart? There you go. My companion here. It's big fluffy Billy. My tabby tomcat, isn't you? He was drawn to the window. He parted the towel that was covering it to keep daylight out, and the moonlight. It was bright moonlight, and he was shocked to notice that there was a figure of a man standing no more than 20 feet away, staring directly at the bothy window. It shook him up. It was strange. What struck him was there was that much light from the cloudless sky and the intensity of almost a full moon that he's looking at this man, a kind of small man, a thin, skeletal type of man in really old-fashioned clothes, so old-fashioned that's as if he was dressed for a historic play. The figure waved to him. Robert just stood motionless. The situation at this point was profoundly disturbing because he knew something wasn't right and he couldn't understand what. But then it's as if his rational mind kicked back in. He went to the door, he opened it and says, oi there, what are you doing out in this cold night? And the figure said, can I come in? Just, can I come in? And Robert just, again, this surge of instinct hit him. And he said, no, there's something not right. There's something, I don't want to be rude, but there's something not right. The man moved towards him very slowly, but even as he started to move towards the door, he started to dematerialize, almost become transparent. At this point, Robert knew something was really amiss. He shut the door, he bolted it, he put a chair up against the door, he put the towel right over the window, he fastened it down so it couldn't be moved. He went into his sleeping bag and he got out his knife that he carried with him. And he went to the fireside, sitting upright, facing the window, facing the door, with a knife in his hand. When he woke up, he was still sitting, and he was no longer shivering, he was no longer cold, and he's wondering to himself, was this some weird dream? And they thought, no, it can't be. It can't be a stupid dream I've had, because I never sleep sitting up beside a fireside with a knife in my hand. Have I been sleepwalking? Did I imagine all this? He packed up immediately, got his warm gel packs out, stuck them in his chest to get extra heat, and he marched out of that bothy, down the track for about 4 or 5 miles till he got the main road and back into his car and drove straight home. And didn't talk about it for about 3 months. He went to his doctor, told his doctor first. Do you know what the doctor did? Gave him a prescription for antidepressants. Because that's what doctors are trained to do. So I'm not blaming the doctor. He realised, Robert, in retrospect, that he was having hypothermia, but he couldn't understand why, with all his experience in the hills, a fit, large young man, and it's not particularly cold, why would it be happening? Do you know, it's when we're in a pub in Loch Lomond several years later, and we asked him to tell the story again, because we'd been hill walking and everything had been fine. We'd found the bothy, not a problem, not an issue. It seems it was a complete one-off. And he was discussing it in the snug. Now, the snug is a seated area that's quite compact. But people that are sitting outside a snug can easily eavesdrop on your conversation. When I was going up to buy a round, this old guy, a local gamekeeper, a local warden, poked his head round the snug. He says, hey lads, I've been hearing what happened. And we said, sorry, I thought we'd kept our voices down. We're not too loud. He said, no. You're not alone. He joined us. We bought him a drink. He joined us. And sure, one of my pals thought, he's just winding you up for a free drink, because men can be quite cynical that way, and women too. But no, I think he was absolutely genuine. You can just tell he's got nothing to gain or lose. And he told us that what Robert experienced was a soul harvester. Someone from the past or the future that's in limbo, in reincarnation, trying to reincarnate, but the body cannot reincarnate without a soul. He told us that there are people that walk around us, living, breathing people. Some of them, a few of them, have no soul. We were shocked, but we were listening. We were listening carefully. And he said that there's another phenomenon called the shadow hunter. The shadow hunter is when real hypothermia creeps in naturally. That as you're failing and fading, and as the brain realizes it's going to die, the walker, the victim, sits down to rest and is joined by a spirit which tells it everything's fine, everything's great, but in fact it's a shadow harvester. And this is an ancient creature of Scottish folk legend that inhabits, due to the frequency and the resonance of the stone that make up the land, the morphic resonance of the place, That is what keeps them here, that empowers them here. So you've got the shadow hunter that claims the living, but you've got the soul hunter who is not looking for someone to die, but wants to steal their soul so that they can reincarnate and go through the transitions of the samsaras of life in order to attain eternity. I'll leave that with you. Make of it what you will. Bye-bye.